Hello and welcome back to another video for Final Fantasy XIV. Post-FanFest blues are upon many people, probably a lot more for people who actually went in person, but there's some great new interviews coming out of the Japanese media, essentially who were able to do some of the media interviews. They didn't seem to have any North American or European media, and there was no influencer sort of set up this time around. I believe that's the way they have it for the next few as well, the other two FanFests, which is very strange, but here we go. So Famitsu, obviously, very commonly delivers on some good stuff. This is going to be Google translated, as you can see, because I don't speak Japanese, but I think we'll get the majority of what's going on here. So this was at the North American Fan Festival 2023 in Las Vegas, and let's have a look at what was said then. After the end of the first day, a press conference was held for media from all over the world. Producer and director Naoki Yoshida answered questions sent in advance from each media, and a joint interview was conducted. Okay, so for some reason it's translating Dawntrail as Golden Legacy. I don't know if that is actually the official translated name for the expansion. I really like that version of that though. So, here's the questions and answers. There's not too many of these. We're going to read through them. So, Famitsu says, I heard that the theme color of the Legacy of Gold logo is gold. Yoshi P says, the theme this time is adventure, and a new adventure will begin for the Warrior of Light, who went to the end of the universe and saved the world. The player, Warrior of Light, travels by ship to a continent called the New World on the side of Eorzea. There are lands that have never been seen before, and in the new player town Treloya, as they translate it here, the biggest symbol of the city, the Royal Palace, can be seen at the top. I told Mr. Romano that I would like you to create a picture of the excitement and anticipation that you would feel from such a new land and new town. Regarding the colours, when I talked to Amano-sensei to draw the Final Fantasy logo, I actually asked him to draw it in black and white. The reason for this is that if I ask Mr. Romano to colour the logo, it will be difficult to reproduce the colours and match the logo when I import the data. So after asking Mr. Romano to make it black and white every time, the development team will add a gradation of colour to the logo. Of course, I told Amano-sensei in advance that the image colour was going to be gold, and he drew the logo. By the way, this time, I made an order that I thought was terrible, but even though it was black and white, I asked Amano-sensei to draw a rainbow, quote unquote, and he has a bitter smile. However, how Mr. Amano draws the rainbow is very important. It's an inspiration for us. The development team and Amano-sensei work together to complete the logo, and I really like it. When 7.0 is released, I think you will feel a crossover with the logo at the moment when the Warrior of Light arrives at the new content Troyal on a ship in the cutscene, so Tural. It's butchering the translation there. So when we go to Tural, so Amano created the logo, fantastic work. It looks really beautiful, but it's interesting to learn that the colors are added after the fact, and they don't give that necessarily to the artist to do immediately. Interesting. I think it's a really interesting logo. I wasn't aware that this was a rainbow though. I thought that was like a halo or something. Next question. In Akatsu no Finale, so in the previous Endwalker, the story was connected from the beginning of Final Fantasy XIV that it will be completed. And in Golden Legacy, or Dawntrail, a completely new story will begin. Do you already have an idea of how big the new story will be and how many expansion packages it will have? Yoshi P says, from the beginning, I didn't intend to connect the story of 14 up to the finale of Endwalker. Of course, I decided to pick it up someday and sprinkled hints in it, and then pieced it together little by little with each expansion package. I think this will be the same with new stories, starting with 7.0. Whether the Hydaelyn and Zodiac arc and the new story starting from here will have the same volume depends on whether everyone likes the story. I can't talk about the content yet, but I have ideas for 2 more expansion packages in my head. I'm 50 right now, he says, and I'll be 51 when Golden Legacy comes out next year. By the time I turn 60, I wonder if I can release about 3 more expansion packages before then. Oh boy. So we've got a lot of 14 to look forward to. As he said at the start of FanFest, actually, when Kiryu-san, the new CEO, came out onto the stage, basically they're quite pleased with 14, and rightfully so. It is selling very well and continues to be a great source of income for Square Enix. So I can expect this game to last quite a lot longer than other MMOs that might think that it would survive as long. So I'm excited about that. Next question. When creating the regions depicted in Golden Legacy, are there any specific cultures that you used as motifs in the real world? That's a great question. Yoshida says, to answer that, the culture that I used as a motif. However, since it is related to the elements that I want to surprise everyone in the future, I will only answer yes for today. I think the answer will be revealed naturally in the future information disclosure. Okay. I mean, to me, it just looks like South America, those sorts of cultural identities, but I guess there's a lot more we haven't seen, right? There's lots of other zones, there's lots of other inspirations to probably talk about at EU FanFest. That's interesting, though, that he wouldn't, straight up answer, but there we go. Maybe there's a lot more to see. In Golden Legacy, do you have any ideas for players who have left and returned, or completely new players to enter new areas? Also, what should I do to get the knowledge necessary for Golden Legacy without being overwhelmed by the lore and world setting so far? Yoshi says, the question is always asked when an expansion package is announced. As those who have already played 14 know, even if an expansion package is released for 14, the previous content will not become obsolete. To make this easier to play, I will definitely do maintenance, and it will be easier to raise the level. What's more, 14 is a story-driven game, so I don't think many people will start from there. Even if they say, if you're new to 14, you can start playing from 7.0. For the time being, we are currently creating a system that allows you to see each character, lore, and world setting up to patch 6.0 in-game, and we're proceeding with preparations to skip up to 6.0 and start the adventure from 6.1. However, if I were to compare it to a TV drama, rather than saying watch from Season 6, I would say it's easier to watch the content so far that has been improved, and it's easier to catch up, so I'll start from Season 1. I think it's more natural, so although we are preparing for it, we are also undecided whether to actually implement it as a measure in 7.0, end quote. So the idea is, obviously, the level boost will likely go up, but they're trying to tailor a new player experience for people so that they don't necessarily have to go, I need to catch up super duper quickly, and there's a lot to take in, because that is a lot of expansions, but they're trying to make it as accessible as possible. So you would probably imagine that even if it isn't in 7.0, but in the future, they'll probably try to tailor the new player experience in many ways. And you've seen part of that anyway with the way that the trust system was enabled and the duty support system, which as of 7.0, actually 6.55, isn't it, will have all of Stormblood connected. So that means that you can play from A Realm Reborn all the way through to current day in the main storyline quests with and dungeons specifically with NPCs. So that helps sort of tailor it a little bit more as well. I'm excited to see what they do, though, for that, because the new player experience does need to be improved, in my opinion. So, next question. An event like this fan festival where the development team staff appear like rock stars is very unique. Okay. Yoshi says it's not like we're sending out developers like rock stars. Bitter smile. Ultimately, our job is to make games, and we don't want to be rock stars. However, in the genre of MMO, massively multiplayer online RPG games, I think it's very important to have mutual understanding with players and media. When the amount of content and systems becomes extremely large, what do the players want now? That is the development. What is the development team trying to do? What are the media interested in, etc.? I think that if we share our thoughts to some extent, we can make MMORPGs as a huge service more interesting and enjoyable. That's why I'm doing it, for that reason. Okay, so there's not much to take from it, is there, really? But they're trying to basically be down to earth, because I think this is a good point, actually, that to rework this in my words would be, you don't want the typical suit and tie to come out and to say, this is what's coming in the game, and then leave, it's so much more engaging. They're going to get a lot more connection with the player base, what they want, what they dislike. And I think it's out of passion, and that's what you're actually demonstrating here. Not necessarily them being rock stars, but the development team for Final Fantasy XIV actually giving a damn. And quite honestly, more companies should do it. Next question. From the perspective of Mr. Yoshida and the development staff, how does it feel to constantly be stopped by fans like this and ask for photos? Yoshi P says, I'm very grateful. Basically, my style is to ask anyone to take a picture with me if I have time. When I held my first fan festival in Las Vegas, I was hugged by a princess in the middle of a casino. And in Japan, I was photographed at the moment I was doing a backdrop. He laughs. However, a while ago, I took a photo with a group of 5 people who were members of the same free company. And the photo was posted on social media. It's hidden. I don't mind taking pictures together and uploading them to social networks, but since we took the trouble to take pictures together, I've asked everyone to show their faces and upload pictures that look like they're having fun, he laughs. Yeah, this is part of Yoshi P just being down to earth again. Like, you know, you don't want to have a moment in history where you remember somebody negatively, right? If you walk past someone that you idolize and they go, no pictures today, it has a bit of a sour effect. So to see the enthusiasm and to see how much Yoshi P and the team just go, yes, I would love to, or if they have the time, it's nice, isn't it? It's very good. It's part of it. Next question. While working on 14, what was your most wonderful and memorable experience? As a producer and director, as a player, as a player, and as you interact with a community, what do you think of the various milestones you've experienced? Okay, Yoshi P says, I've answered this many times before, but when we first held our first fan festival in Las Vegas, we were able to rebuild the old 14 and finally be able to hold our long-awaited fan festival. At that time, the registration machine from the previous day had broken down, and the waiting line was getting really long. So the PR director at one time told me, if Yoshi P comes out and apologizes, everyone will tone it down. So I went out. At that time, we received tremendous cheers, and many people said thank you for rebuilding Final Fantasy XIV. Some in their mid-teens told me, you are my hero. I never imagined a Japanese person like me would say something like this, or hear something like this. So I'm really glad that I worked so hard. That is a memory that will never be forgotten, end quote. In fact, there's actually a video they've embedded here of when Yoshi P came out. That's cool. Let's see. Okay, now we've gotten more questions down here. Now that 10 years have passed since 14, how do you manage to balance the feedback and requests from the fans with what you're aiming for in Final Fantasy XIV? Yoshi P says, it's hard to explain how you balance things. I'm a gamer myself, and I'm one of the 14 players. So I've actually played the game myself, and there are a lot of things I can understand in the feedback from players. However, there are quite a few things from a perspective of players and gamers that now is fine if we, the development team, only took the current state of a game and tried to make the game easier or reduce the challenges. The balance of a game itself may break down in the future. In order to prevent that, it's my job as director to decide whether this should be fixed immediately or whether it's something that should be prioritized right now, and then assemble the game. The sensory part is strong, but I build the game with that kind of thinking in mind, end quote. Okay. Yeah, I suppose the unique perspective of a developer that actually plays their games, you know, that's quite a novel experience. Looks at Blizzard Entertainment. Let's see. Are you planning a crossover between Final Fantasy XIV and 16? Yoshi P says, the producer of 16 is Mr. Yoshida, who is the same name as me. And I was finally able to have a meeting with Yoshi P over there. I'm generally got the answer, but I can't answer it here, he laughs. I wish I could tell you something in the middle of the year. So sort of hinting at the fact that in the middle of 2023 or 24, I guess the middle of this year, we might actually get an announcement as to the 16 event crossover, which is a lot earlier than I expected, actually. I thought Dawntrail would come out before we would see any information on the 16 crossover, but there you go. It seems we're getting it before. As Final Fantasy XIV continues to expand, how do you plan to make it easier for new players to join the game, considering the time it takes to catch up with the story? Yoshi says, every time we release an expansion package, we fine-tune the item level and balance of equipment to capture past content. In addition, the content supporters have also been greatly updated, so I think that's a big factor. I think content supporters is another, like a translation issue of duty support, which is, again, what we're talking about. In 5.3 patch, released on August 11th, many of the main scenario quests and content of A Realm Reborn have been refurbished. Please tell us a bit about the process of working on that content again as a development task, deciding what content to keep and what content to remove, and what content to fix. Also, looking back in 2023, is there anything you wish you had left behind? Yoshi P says, first of all, there is nothing that I wish I had kept. When it came to renovating the main scenario of A Realm Reborn, most of the work involved removing quests, and we used 3 methods. One is that there are quests that are easy for players to leave, and we were chasing them in terms of data. The second is to omit things that we actually played and felt were unnecessary in terms of the game experience. And the third is to clean up all of the data of the NPCs, reconfirm which NPC speaks, which quest and which lore, and erase the things that say, this character doesn't have to exist. The third task was the hardest, so translation errors there, but trying to decide who was an important NPC to have on screen and which wasn't useful at all. There was a lot of fluff, actually, in my opinion. So, Akatsu no Finale. So, Endwalker deals with emotional topics that are very difficult for many writers and players to deal with, such as the significance of one's existence and losing something important to you. Where did you get the idea from, and were there any difficulties in incorporating these themes? Yoshi P says to that question, the Final Fantasy XIV team, including Yoshida, is not making Finale of the Dawn, that's another way of saying it, as a standalone work, but as a story based on the adventures so far. I've drawn various stories in the expansion packages. In Ishgard in the Blue Sky, I drew a story of how Alphino, Izel? Estinian and the Warrior of Light can join hands even if their ideals and thoughts are different during their journey. In Gurren no Liberator, which is obviously Stormblood, I depicted a battle to liberate the country of Alamigo, which was ruled by Garlemald Empire. I also drew a kind of conflict between those who lived by obeying those who were worried and controlling them, and those who didn't. In Jet Black Villains, which is obviously Shadowbringers, the ancients who want to return to the world to its original state, and the people who live in the present both may not be wrong. Katsuki no Finale is the first ending point of the story, and it was a really difficult theme, but it's because the players who connected all the stories up until that point that they walked with us. I think we have arrived to a place that is convincing. So if I try to draw that theme from scratch with only the volume of Akatsuki no Finale, I think it would probably have been impossible. It was a difficult theme, and I think Natsuko Ishikawa, who was in charge of the main writing, had a lot of trouble. He says, please interview her if you have the chance. The next question, is it possible to consider implementing a data center travel across regions or a content finder registration system that spans regions? Okay, this is the important question, okay? Oh boy. Yoshi P says data centers are located in 4 regions: North America, Europe, Japan, and Oceania. However, I still think there is a lack of verification data on whether it's okay to suddenly mix the cultures of each region. Regarding this, I'm thinking of taking a little more time to look at the current data center travel situation and then decide whether to publish it or not after making a slow decision. We are also considering implementing a matching system that transcends all regions and a content finder registration system. However, the super server engineer of the development team and I have had meetings many times, and at the end of each meeting I said, let's talk about it at the next meeting. That's what I'm worried about, with a bitter smile. It says, it's very difficult in terms of technical and infrastructure, but I think the good thing about 14 team is that they never give up on challenges. So I want to continue thinking about how to do something without giving up, I think, end quote. So, from what it sounds like to me, it's possible, obviously, and it just seems to be more of a decision of whether it is right or wrong culturally. Now, I personally think that the cultural differences they establish something, right? Obviously, different ways of using Party Finder and Duty Finder and understanding what the etiquette is for hunt marks and things like that, right? Or whatever you might be doing. But I don't think it's enough of a reason to dilute the population. I think it's a much better option, at least in my opinion, to open it up, to make it so that you can play with people, especially North America and Europe. The differences are small. They are small. Japan, it might be a little bit different. There are significant differences with how players' content, deal with the content in Japan compared to Europe and North America and even Oceania. But I don't think it's enough of a reason, personally. But from what I read in that paragraph with this badly translation from Google, I think that they can do it. They just don't know if they want to do it. And I think we need to support people in the team and say, we do want that. And hopefully we get it. Personally, I think it would be great to play with people from America with my European character. I hate having to just create lots of new characters. It's annoying me. Next question. After Variant Dungeon and Another Dungeon Criterion, do you have any plans to develop new 4-player content in the future? What kind of feedback have you received so far? Also, is it safe to assume that there won't be any new content for 72 players in the future given the implementation of this content? Yoshi says the system of Variant Dungeon and Another Dungeon Criterion are very complete. So we'll start by creating endgame content for 4 players in the series. Of course, we would like to continue to reflect the feedback we receive and power it up with casual and exciting content. But for the time being, it's the end content for 4 players will continue with the Variant Dungeon and Another Dungeon series I'm planning to go. However, we are currently in the process of planning to completely do new type of battle content that has never existed before. So we are also discussing what to do with the next series for a large-scale games like Southern Bozja Front and Forbidden Land of Eureka that use the entire area, and we plan to take on new challenges. Regarding the new Variant Dungeon, please look forward to the Producer Live at the time tomorrow, which they talked about the fact they would announce one of the second day of a fan festival. So, from what I understand here, even though this is kind of bodged together, I don't think necessarily they're leaving the idea of those field instances behind. It's more of the fact they need to find a way to make them fit the content, and rather than feel, being like forced around that. They're open to new challenges though, and it does look like the Criterion and Variant mode has sort of shown them the credibility of light party content. I think a lot of people find it easier to find 3 other people to do content with like this. So maybe, here's my suggestion, completely out of this, maybe the next Relic should have something to do with the Variant mode. I really think that system could work in the future and would offer some depth. But I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section. But it doesn't look like they're giving up. So that's good. And in an ideal world, I would like you to purchase Final Fantasy I and place it in the housing as furnishing for the arcade cabinet. Oh, being able to play the first Final Fantasy series in 14 is great, even if available only on Mog Station. What is this question? Yoshi says, I've been taking on this challenge for about 1.5 years now. Since the Pixel remastered version was released, I was testing it because I would be happy if I could play it in the Gold Saucer and housing. However, the Pixel remastered version runs on middleware. If you want to run that middleware in 14, you have to create a system that runs the middleware in 14, and then run the Pixel remastered version on top of that. In order to run the game, you need a very mysterious mechanism such as loading another game and installing a system for that. I wouldn't go as far as to say they're geniuses, but if there were a couple more super programmers, I think I might be able to find a way. So if you're a warrior of light who says, I'll run the Pixel remastered version in 14, I hope you'll apply to Square Enix after reading this article, he laughs. I'm half joking, half serious. But since we're running it as a theme park for the Final Fantasy series, it would be nice if we could do something like that. Therefore, if we continue to challenge myself in the future, by the way, when it comes to FF4 to FF6, we have to think about business, including volume. Even if this were to happen and you'd sell it on the MOG station instead of for free, please write down the paid part in the question so that people won't say Yoshida don't lie, he laughs. In any case, I would like to continue to find ways for players to have fun. Honestly, end quote, I have no idea why they want to put Final Fantasy 1 in 14. I have absolutely no idea from my own perspective reading this. This is the first time I've read through this today. I have no idea, because just play the Pixel remaster. I really don't get it. I guess it would be cool as an arcade cabinet, but if you're not going to do the original, then what's the point? I don't know. Maybe you think differently, but games within games, you want them full screen anyway? I don't know. Maybe I'm weird and old. I like my games to be separate as games. Do you have any plans to expand 14 into other media, the next question says, such as anime or a TV series? Also, do you personally want to realize this kind of development? Yoshi P says, there are times when I would like to do a TV series if I could be the executive producer. However, I'm the producer and director of Final Fantasy XIV, the general manager of the 3rd Development Division, an executive officer, and the director. So I don't think it's possible for me to be the director of the TV series for the time being. I'm here. Final Fantasy XIV has never said no to requests to make spin-offs, anime or movies. In fact, we've received many inquiries from various places. However, to be honest, I'm not in a position to talk specifically at the moment. If 14 were to develop in such a way, I'd be very particular how to make it into a work without breaking the image that the players have. When the opportunity comes, I think we will deliver something of solid quality. I don't have any plans right now, but that's how I feel. Finally, thank you for joining us for Final Fantasy Fan Festival Day 1 from early in the morning until late at night. Tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, cool. So that was just wrapping up of the Fan Fest. So there's some interesting things to take from that. He would like to be the producer of his own TV show. The man does enough already, don't you think? He's a genius. And I can't believe that he's open to so many different things. As well as all of those other titles he listed, he also worked as a similar role, with Final Fantasy 16, which was, in my opinion, a critically acclaimed success as well. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll see one day in the future Yoshi P, director of his own, TV program. That would be amazing. And maybe doing his own camera work as well, or maybe some of the editing. I don't know how he finds time for any of these suggestions, as well as doing all of the things he does. The man is a legend. Absolutely. So yeah, a few things to take from this. They want to do something with putting more of old games into 14. That's a good idea. I don't know about putting games within games, but I'd like there to be more crossovers personally. Variant mode seems to be the way to go. They like that sort of stuff. They're not discounting the 72-player stuff, but it seems to be like it's on the table at the moment, so don't expect that for 7.0 necessarily. The cross data center thing, I think they just need to go, let's do it and make a decision, because there's a lot of people who would like a yes or a no at this point. I'm one of those people. I would love to hear, no, we're not doing it ever, or yes, we can do that, but give us some time. But it seems to be more of a cultural decision, and I don't know the answer to that personally. If it was me, I would just do it. There's some really great questions here. There are some a little bit that I certainly wouldn't ask. I think that some of the questions are a bit unusual, but all in all, not a bad interview, and the first of presumably many to come out of FanFest and beyond. Obviously leading up to Dawntrail, hopefully we get more media coverage, and hopefully influencers are included in that. That would be really cool, because there's a lot of questions that I would love to ask the man himself. Anyway, much love, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye. Translation. A Katsuna finale is the first ending point of a story. It's been because the translation put Ayoshi P. They may both be wrong. I came. And I just lost it. Google, why?